welcome back aboard the Polite Ship, everyone. And before we begin, I have to make an announcement. I'm changing my iconic text color. You know the text that I always used before in my old videos? Yeah, well, that's just started disappearing for some reason. I can't find the template anymore on CapCut. It just vanished completely off the platform. So now I have to use a different text. So from now on, I'm going to be doing this, at least until I can get my regular text back. Anyways, guys, as you saw in the thumbnail and on the title, today I'm going to be showing you guys around my Minecraft recreation of Disneyland. Surprisingly, this only took 3 months to build, but I have both parks. I didn't build Downtown Disney just because there was really no point of it. Especially since most of the stores in the parks, I built the outside of, but not the inside. Anyway, so when you walk in, you can see you get this thing that pops up in the chat. To all who come to this happy place, welcome. And over here, I built the monorail station where Downtown Disney would be. And I have a really cool ride credit system that you'll see at the end. Anyways, we're going to start by heading to California Adventure because that's where I started building. So I'm going to take you guys into California Adventure, like I said to start. When you walk into California Adventure, you get another thing that pops up in the chat that says, "Welcome to Disney California Adventure." So let's just walk around the entrance part. And over here you can see the Carthay Circle Theater. And then if we go down, there's not much to see in here because, like I said, I didn't build the inside to any of the stores. But going through Hollywoodland, we can get to the back area over here where Monsters is soon to be replaced by Pandora. But here's the Monsters, Inc. Mike and Sully to the rescue. The show building. I'm going to show you the show building. All of the rides are fully rideable. I'm just not going to show you each individual ride because that'd take up a really long amount of time. I already have a couple POVs of some of them on YouTube, so definitely go check those out. But anyways, we're going to go back around here to get to Avengers Campus because I want to show you this side of Bart Peak. And yes, I'm still calling it Bart Peak. I don't care. So this is Bart
Yep, here's Bart Peak, everybody.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure they knew.
I just said. Anyway, here's Avengers Campus, so let's go in. So I'm not the happiest with how Avengers Campus turned out because the problem is I built Guardians first and I made it too big to the point where by the time I was done, I had to squeeze the rest of Avengers Campus in. Web Slingers is fully rideable, and as you can see, it's not the biggest because I had to squeeze it in, which means the scale is really weird. Guardians is so huge, and then everything else in comparison is just way too small, which is why the shot from outside of Avengers Campus looks weird. Also, by the way, I'm cooked once the new stuff comes to Avengers Campus because I have absolutely no room for myself behind Avengers Campus, and I'll show you that later. But anyways, here's Guardians. Guardians is fully rideable, but I'm not happy with the way it turned out because, 1, I'm not good with Redstone, 2, I'm not good with commands, and this is also on mobile, which means it's on Bedrock, which means I can't mod any of this. So I couldn't really figure out a way to get the elevator system to work, so it's kind of like it's cramped. Anyways, now we're leaving Avengers Campus, and we're going to make our way into Cars Land. I think it's here where I should tell you the problem with the Avengers Campus expansion. So let's look at a sky view. So there's Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, and right on the other side is Avengers Campus. Now, in real life, there's a lot more room back here that they have to do the expansion. In my recreation, I didn't give myself that room, which means that when it comes time to recreate the expansion, I'm going to have to shove 2 rides, one of which is, if what they're saying about it is true, going to be pretty large scale dark ride, and cram all of that into this space in between Mater's Junkyard Jamboree and Avengers Campus. Speaking of Junkyard Jamboree, let's start with Cars Land. So obviously, Junkyard Jamboree is rideable. Every ride is rideable. That was Belle in the background. That's her again. But anyways, yeah, Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, fully rideable. And we're going to walk down. That's Belle again. Yeah, what do you want? It's just about. Yeah. But anyways, let's walk through Cars Lane here. There's the Cozy Cone. And there's Flo's V8 Cafe. Now, I'm going to show you what I mean by this ride credit system that I mentioned earlier. So say we go to ride Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters, and we go in, we go through the queue, and then we ride it. Once we're done, not actually going to ride it for time reasons, but once we're actually done riding it and we get off, we'll step on this pressure plate when we exit, and it'll give us the ride credit for that specific ride. Once we've ridden every ride in both parks, we can trade out those ride credits for something pretty cool. But anyways, so here's Radiator Springs Racers. I did a full POV video of that on my channel, so definitely go check that out. But I wanted to show you guys the rock work and how big this ride actually is, because I think it might actually be the biggest one I built. I think Radiator Springs Racers is the biggest ride I built. I don't know, it's close, but I think it might be Radiator Springs Racers. But anyways, here's a better view of the rock work from like the ground level where you're actually supposed to see it. Taking the second exit off of Route 66, we're going to head into San Francisco Square because I have a couple food Easter eggs in here. I wouldn't really call them Easter eggs, but pizza with a question mark, because I guess there's pizza or something in there. Hamburger. Just hamburger. Yeah. And then over here we have the bakery, where you can do the bakery tour for the amazing sourdough that they have. And then over here we have the Greasy Odd Tacos, which is where I got those Greasy Odd Tacos for lunch on the first day. Then we come over here and we have fish, I guess. So anyways, we're going to walk across the bridge now and make our way to Paradise Gardens Park. But I do want to mention, you might have seen this already when I was walking down Cars Land earlier, but if you come over to Cars Land and look over the top of the thing over here, you can kind of see the bridge. Anyway, here's the view of Pixar Pier from Paradise Gardens Park. I will come back later to this area so we can watch World of Color, because I did do that. I didn't really do the show, I just kind of put the fountains in there, but now we're going to go to Pixar Pier so I can ride. I am going to do a couple rides on this tour, but they're not going to have any of the ride audio because it's not going to be a full video. So I would have to edit the ride audio into it and everything. So you're just going to see the ride in its raw form in Credicoaster. You know what? I changed my mind. Instead, I'm just going to post like a fully edited video later. But anyway, so here's the only two rides in the entire thing that aren't fully rideable are the wheel and... Oh, there's actually three. The wheel, Emotional Whirlwind, and Jumping Jellyfish. Just because either I didn't know how to get them to work, or I just didn't feel like doing it. But yeah, Jumping Jellyfish, not rideable. Anyways, we're going to come over here, and we're not going to ride Ariel, but we are going to look at the show building from above, so you can just get an idea of how big it is. So yeah, that's the show building. Now, I promised you I'd show you World of Color, so we're going to do that now. So I just got to set the time to night, and then you can see World of Color. Mind you, this makes the game extremely laggy. As you can tell by the fact that I'm clicking the lever and none of the fountains are doing anything. Anyways, now we're going to come over here to Bart Peak, the Bart Peak area. And as you can see, we have Bart River Run. And this is the whole layout of that, fully rideable as well. And then we're going to go back here, and I planted like several saplings for this. And for some reason, the game refused to give me the bigger oak trees when I needed them. The best example of that is right here with Soarin'. So the way I had to do it was I had to actually make physical sets that you flew through because I really couldn't do it any other way. And so because of that, I needed a lot of big trees to cover up this huge show building. Minecraft was refusing to give me big trees. Refusing me to give what? Anyway, so instead I had to improvise and just covered the show building in leaves. But anyways, that's all of California Adventure. So now we're going to make our way over to Disneyland. So just like with DCA, you get the Welcome to Disneyland thing when you walk in. And now we're going to go under the train station, which, by the way, train fully loops around the park, fully rideable. But like I don't know if I said this yet, it is still partially decorated for Christmas. And when I say partially, I mean most of the park is still decorated for Christmas. But anyway, including Haunted Mansion Holiday, which it's gonna be annoying because, anyways, here's the castle. We're gonna start in Tomorrowland. Haunted Mansion Holiday, like I was saying, Haunted Mansion Holiday is gonna be annoying because that was how I built it. Because I built it around Christmas, so I built it as holiday. But anyway, so just to give you an idea of how big the show buildings are, this is Star Tours alone. And then this is Buzz Lightyear alone, which is weird because Buzz Lightyear is actually bigger. But anyway, so Space Mountain was really fun to build. Like, really fun. Coming over here, we have the monorail, which is fully rideable. I'll show you at the end. Goes all the way around. We have Autopia, which ended up smaller than I expected, but it still turned out really good. And Submarine Voyage, Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage, which not much to expect with that anyway. Now, the Matterhorn. Moving into Fantasyland. The Matterhorn didn't come out entirely how I wanted it to because it was really, really small and I didn't have a lot of room. But I still think it turned out pretty good overall. But like I said, really, really small. Like, if you look at it and compare the height to the castle, in real life, it's obviously bigger than the castle. That is not true in my recreation. I don't know how it ended up so small, but yeah. So, now let's move into Fantasyland. So, the teacups, sometimes they're spinning, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you have to jumpstart them. And then all the Fantasyland dark rides happen in these show buildings. So, I didn't really have a lot of room, so they're really cramped, but I managed to fit them. They turned out pretty good. Speaking of the Fantasyland dark rides, let's go into the entrance part of Fantasyland so I can show you guys that because I'm going to have to backtrack to Toontown. But if you come through the castle and enter through the main entrance to Fantasyland, you get the carousel, fully rideable. Everything here, fully rideable. Dumbo, obviously, and then the Casey Jr. Circus train and the Storybook Land canal boats, which are also both fully rideable. Here, if we come over here, I'll give you a better view of the canal boats. Now, as you can see from that, Small World Holiday is still Small World Holiday, with many, many item frames that I'm going to have to remove later. So yeah, little note about that. But anyway, so there's the show building for Small World. And then if we come over here, we're going to go into Mickey's Toontown, where I did already put a POV on the channel of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So definitely check that out after this video too. But yeah, Toontown. Here is the show building for Roger Rabbit. And then this is the show building for Mickey and Minnie's. See the difference? It's so big that it goes all the way into Galaxy's Edge. Like look at this thing. Like what? Anyways, back on the ground, we're going to walk all the way to the back of Toontown where Minnie and Mickey, their houses are. And then we're going to see Gadget Coaster, which is fully rideable, just like everything else. So yeah, that was Toontown. And now we're going to make our way back to the Main Street area so we can go to Adventureland. Now, Adventureland, I went all out because everything is really, honestly, pretty accurate. So we have the Tiki Room. You can go inside. You can't really watch it, but there are birds in there. And then we have Jungle Cruise, which is way too big. Like, this is the whole river. Not gonna lie, it does take up like 90% of Adventureland in real life too, but yeah, so that's Jungle Cruise. And then coming over here, you can go to Indiana Jones. Now, look at how small the temple is. And then look at how big the show building is. Can't even really call this a show building. What can you call this? But anyways, back on the ground level again, we're going to go over to the Adventureland Treehouse, where you just kind of can walk around and just hope that you don't fall off and die because there's absolutely nothing to keep you from falling off whatsoever. So if you walk just a little bit too close over the edge or get caught on a vine like I just did there, you could fall off. But anyways, now we're going to make our way into Frontierland, where we're going to start with Big Thunder. We're not going to ride Big Thunder, but we are going to look at it from above because it's actually not that big. Mostly because it has to lean up against the show building of the Fantasyland dark rides. But anyways, if we come to the entrance area over here from Main Street, you're going to see we have a couple Frontierland shops and stuff, and then we have the shooting gallery where there's no targets to actually shoot at, but you can like kind of just pull out a bow and shoot the wall. And then, yeah, so that's Big Thunder. There's also this path under Big Thunder that leads you to Fantasyland, just like there is in real life. And then we come over here to the dock for the Mark Twain. So yeah. Speaking of the rivers, we're going to start going around the river, starting with New Orleans Square. This is, without a doubt, my favorite section of this entire park because I put a lot of work into Haunted Mansion and Pirates, and they turned out amazing. Speaking of which, the show building for Pirates, Haunted Mansion, and Tiana's kind of just morph into one, so it's kind of hard to differentiate which is which. But the show building for Pirates, in real life, there was a reason for the drop. Once you go down the drop, you go under the train tracks so that they wouldn't have to make the train tracks go around the show building like this. The problem is, this isn't the entire ride. This is before the drop. The bayou scene alone is that big. That's the whole bayou scene, just that show building. So the train track has to go around it. So yes, it does go underground for most of the ride. But the biggest part of the show building is the bayou scene. So I still had that problem. But going back to the ground, we have this kind of shopping center that's back here where the train station is, which every time you get off the train and enter a new land, there's like a thing that I put that in the chat too. So here's Haunted Mansion. And it's, as I said earlier, still decked out for a Haunted Mansion holiday because that was how I built it, because I built it after it was already set up. Now, going into Bayou Country, let's talk about the river. Well, first, here's Tiana's, but now let's talk about the river, because the river is really, really weird. I had to change it about 5 times, and all of those changes happened while I was working on Bayou Country. So I changed it, like I said, about 5 different times. This is what the river looks like now, but originally it was about this small. When I started building Bayou Country, I realized that I messed up the first time, and to fix the river, I had to expand it, which meant renovating the entirety of this section of Big Thunder here, because the walk from Fantasyland to Big Thunder was already, number one, the walk from Fantasyland to Big Thunder was too long. And number two, the area of Bayou Country had the river going through it, but the way it was set up, I couldn't do that. And Galaxy's Edge would be in the weirdest possible position if I did that. Then, once I finished Bayou Country, I realized it was still too small and had to renovate it a third time. And even now, there's still issues. There's a couple issues. Number one is that if you ride the train in real life, then if you've ridden the train in Disneyland, then you know that you get a pretty good view of the rivers from the train. My train doesn't have that because the river still isn't big enough. And I couldn't have expanded the river without messing up Big Thunder again, because Big Thunder, like I said earlier, is right up against the show buildings for the Fantasyland dark rides. Fantasyland is intruding on my space to expand, basically. Not to mention, the bridge to Galaxy's Edge is right here, and I just didn't have room to put the train anywhere else. But back to the bayou, we're going to go, there's Tiana's, and we're going to go around here, so you can get a look at the entrance to Tiana's, which is right over here. And going, now we're going to go under the train tracks, and over here is Winnie the Pooh, which the show building for Pooh is kind of intruding a little bit on Galaxy's Edge, but it's not that big of a deal because the Galaxy's, you can't see it, and the Galaxy's Edge reveal is just so cool. But anyways, we're going to go back under the tracks again and around so we're going to go past Hungry Bear Barbecue. And we're going to go into, also here's the dock for the canoes. But anyways, now we're going to go under the bridge and go into the final part of this tour, which is Galaxy's Edge. Now, speaking of Galaxy's Edge, I put a POV of Rise of the Resistance on my channel, so go check that out too after the video. But if we fly up here, you can see just how massive the show building is for this. It's still nowhere near as big as Mickey and Minnie's, but what's really funny is, I'm going to show you later, the comparison to the Millennium Falcon show building. Yeah, that's the whole show building for Rise. And the two big rooms that you just saw there were the Stormtrooper room and I think the AT-AT room. But anyway, so we're going to go further into the forest area until we get to this like shopping area over here, where if we go up a little bit, we're going to get to see all the shops and then Ronto Roasters. So that's pretty nice. So yeah, that was Ronto Roasters, and now we're going to go down the stairs over here and see the Millennium Falcon, which is also fully rideable. Now, here is the show building for the Falcon, because it's really funny. Look at how small that is compared to the massive show building for Rise right behind it. But yeah, that's the Falcon. And now we're going to go back down to the ground level here and go over here so we can go through this area with a first order base thing. And then we're going to come this way over here. And that's pretty much it for Galaxy's Edge. And that means that's pretty much it for the tour altogether. So if anyone was wondering what that was, I just recorded an entire monorail tour that got completely deleted because my phone doesn't make sense. I will post a train video too later. But anyways, I also explained what happened with the ride credits in that video. You get a postcard if you press the button after you get all the ride credits. But again, got cut out because my phone doesn't make any sense. And when you leave, see you real soon, pal. So that's the tour of Disneyland and Minecraft. I'll be posting some other videos later on this place, but until then, thanks for watching. Don't get seasick. Bye.